Welcome back to another episode of the Cycle Podcast, the show where we cover 4 trending MLB topics in 20 minutes or less. Joining me once again is Zach Gerlach. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing all right, brother. How are you? Thanks for having me again.
Fabulous. Tomorrow's my birthday. First day back to school with students today, so I'm tired, but, I've still got some energy to talk a little bit of baseball.
I'm sorry. Before we jump into it, for anyone watching on YouTube, can we just admire this man's shirt? Like, look at the color pink with the stripes. Beautiful shirt. Great choice. Great choice.
I never get complimented on my outfit by my students, but today a few kids like, hey, teacher whose name I don't know. I like your shirt. I'm like, hey, thanks, man. Hey, and no more glazing. Let's move right into our first topic. Our first topic is going to be the discussion regarding Shohei Ohtani versus Pete Crow Armstrong for the NL MVP. In recent days, maybe a recent week, I should say, PCA has officially overtaken Ohtani in some betting circles, though I have seen odds that still have Ohtani as the favorite. Now, offensively, they are very similar. You have PCA at 286, 26 home runs, 71 RBIs, 128 hits, 29 stolen bases. This is where he has the big advantage over Ohtani on the base paths. Ohtani at 294, also with 26 home runs. One more RBI. He's scored 73 runs, though he's not stealing a ton of bases. Their WAR. PCA is at 7.5. Ohtani is at 6.4. Ohtani's WAR accumulation, in large part, comes from that first half where he was still pitching and looked like one of the best pitchers in the game. PCA's WAR is also coming from his defense. He's been probably the best defensive outfielder in the game. He's number 1 in all of the MLB in outs above average, and he is top 10 in D WAR as a center fielder. So, one of the things I've heard a lot is, well, Ohtani's not pitching the rest of the year, so we can't factor that in. Why not? Because that first stretch, he was one of the best pitchers in the game, and that was at a time when the Dodgers really needed starting pitching, and he stepped up to the tune of 14 starts with an 8-2 record, 85 innings pitched, 95 Ks, and a sub-2 ERA. So what you're really weighing is PCA's year-long defense versus Ohtani's half a year of pitching. There are a lot of players that are good defensive players. There's not a lot of players who can hit like an MVP and pitch half the year like a Cy Young winner. So, Zach, my question to you, because Ohtani did that in the first half, are you going to kneecap him a little bit when we're talking the MVP as opposed to if he did it in the second half?
I feel like it's tough to say. I mean, kneecapping Ohtani as a statement as a whole seems kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
I feel like you look at two different players, right? It's like comparing an apple and an orange. You have Ohtani, which is obviously a unicorn. Obviously, we all know that. But if he only really pitched 14 starts, obviously for the year, as far as we're expecting, and only being in the first half, whereas PCA has obviously been consistent. And I myself, weeks ago, even said to you, if PCA can keep this up down the stretch, I think he's an MVP candidate. I think we saw that last year, and I think this year he's really obviously proving himself even more as a favorite. But I feel like for Ohtani, with the depth that they are getting now, with more pitching, obviously being schoolball and things like that, I think they're going to kind of put him almost to the side and kneecap him, I guess you would say. Whereas PCA, being as consistent as he's been year-round, the best defensive outfielder, as you said. Me personally, I have PCA ahead of him in that race right now.
As do I. And I think there's so many things to factor in. PCA's base running, elite base stealing ability. Combine that with the defense. He's just such an all-around player. And can that match being a pitcher and a hitter? No. But if you're talking about value to a team, I think PCA has been the most valuable player to his organization day in and day out this year. And the statement game against Ohtani, Ohtani hits a leadoff home run to start the game. PCA goes up, does the same thing. I thought that was a true MVP moment. Okay, you talk about a guy who has sort of shied away when the lights got a little brighter. We saw that last year down the stretch. For this year to be going head-to-head, he knows in his mind that that's the guy who's challenged him for MVP. He says, you hit a home run, watch what I can do. And that was one of those moments where you say, okay, PCA is here to stay. This is the real deal. And I agree with you. If I was a betting man, I would put my money on PCA right now, knowing how the voters are with voter fatigue and the ability to say, well, we're looking at more down the stretch stuff with PCA versus Ohtani. So I'm going to be in agreement with you there. That's a unanimous. PCA is going to be the MVP. Take it to the Hard Rock. Put your bets in. But don't say it's because of our advice. You ready to move on? Oh, we are not financial advisors. I'm a teacher. He's a realtor. If you want to buy a house, go talk to him, though. With that, let's move on to a very uncomfortable topic for you, Zach. We're going to be talking the Red Sox. Our second topic is going to be discussing the historic streak that the Boston Red Sox are coming off of. Starting June 25th, they went on a stretch of 31-5. Before that streak, they were 33-46, 14 and a half games back. As of a few days ago, when this streak technically ended, they're on a little bit of a losing streak now. They were 63-51, only 5 games out, with a spot in the wild card. The contributions they've got from Caleb Durbin, Ceddanne Rafaela, and Wilson Contreras were outstanding. Sonny Gray has looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last month or two. Jake Bennett has been stepping up huge. And as we're talking about this, the Red Sox just came off a stretch where they lost 3 in a row. That is 2 close games, the Athletics, and a game against Toronto. So my question for you, first question, is it too early to peak? You see teams that get smoking hot in the middle of the year, and then by the time the playoffs come around, they've cooled off significantly, and they're an early out. And I think sometimes that is a detriment to a team. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously taking the bias out of it, I think it's very early for a team to be doing this well that was not doing well prior to that, if that makes sense. You know, obviously they were looked at as they were very much overlooked. I think coming into the season, everyone had very high expectations of them, and then, you know, for lack of a better term, they just were not doing well. And you know, obviously just to come out and go on a 31-5 stretch out of nowhere, I think it's, you know, if I'm the Red Sox front office, I'm you know, very cautious in what my next moves are, right? Where do I move my pieces around? Obviously, you have guys like Caleb Durbin that really came out of nowhere. I mean, he was a Yankee, then he went to, then he ended up obviously going to the Red Sox too. And I think just a few games ago, he just hit a grand slam and things like that. He's been going off. But I feel like a team like this, I feel like to get momentum right now is a very good sign. To be peaking right now, that could cause some concern for the Red Sox front office, because you don't necessarily want to burn out. And then come September, when you are fighting for wild card spots, you don't have any more in the tank.
Yeah. And I was thinking 4 days ago when they were still in the middle of this run, bringing some of those guys back in the mix, your Roman Anthony, your Garrett Crochet, your Adley Rutschman, you can really throw off the momentum of that team, because like I was saying, you're taking a starting spot away from 2 guys who were there during that stretch. You're bringing a new ace back into the mix, bumping Sonny Gray and Jake Bennett. Obviously, it's a good thing to have the star power that they're bringing back, but you don't necessarily want to mess with what's working. And having them lose a few in a row as Adley Rutschman gets healthy, as Roman Anthony starts to ramp up baseball activities, and as you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel on Garrett Crochet's injury, I think they're going to be coming at the right time. I think getting those reinforcements has a real chance to spark them, and I'm not counting them out of winning the American League East. I think the Rays are phenomenal. I think the Yankees have some real power, but I don't think we say the Red Sox are in it just for a wild card spot. I mean, look, Aaron Judge is out till what? Late August, early September. The Rays are 1 or 2 injuries away from not having a ton of depth. And knock on wood, I don't want to see that happen, but they really kind of need to check their rearview mirrors here and see what the Red Sox are doing. And when they see those Red Sox, whether it be in the Trop or Yankee Stadium or in Fenway, they need to put their big boy pants on and say, we're putting a stop to this. We're going to put a few games in between us and them. Otherwise, that could be a very dangerous team down the stretch. Our third segment is going to be touching on the standings, starting with the American League. And then, Zach, I'm going to have you tell us who your biggest surprises are at the top of a division and at the bottom of a division. So in the AL Central, we've got Chicago White Sox sitting at 3.5 games up of both Minnesota and Detroit. A half game behind that group is going to be Cleveland, followed by Kansas City at 13.5 games back from the White Sox. In the AL East, the Rays, putting some distance between themselves and the Yankees, they are now 6 games up. Yankees in second, 2 games behind them, the Boston Red Sox, followed by Baltimore and Toronto, both 15-plus games back. In the AL West, we've got Houston at 61 and 59, now in first place in that division after I sort of counted them out. Then a half game back is Texas, a few more games back Seattle, and then at the basement, you've got the Athletics and the Angels tied with at 13 and a half games back. In the American League, Atlanta looking like they were slowing down, now picking it back up, 71 and 48. The Phillies trailing by 7.5 games, followed by Miami, Washington, and then the New York Mets. The NL Central, which has been my favorite division for much of the year, Milwaukee and Chicago now going back, fighting for first place. Milwaukee 5 games up on Chicago. Everybody else at minimum 10 games behind the Cubs. You've got the NL West, Dodgers up 7.5 games on the Arizona Diamondbacks, followed closely by San Diego, and then 2 of the worst teams of the MLB, San Francisco and Colorado, both 20 or more games back from the Dodgers. So let's start with your surprise first place team.
The Rays. And I say this only because, all right, so let me say this. So coming into the season, obviously I gave you my expectations for every division. And I feel like the Rays did come out very strong. And I, as a Yankees fan and as a chirping Yankees fan, went to the Yankees-Rays games that were here. And everyone that was yelling at us, everyone that was yelling at my brother and I was like, you know what? They won't be relevant in 2 months. They won't be relevant in 2 months. But sure enough, they've been pretty relevant, and they've been a very big thorn in our side. So I feel like the Rays are definitely up there as far as still maintaining momentum. I thought that they were going to burn out, and to my surprise, they surely have not.
In the first major trade deadline, I remember where they made real moves. Freddie Peralta and Liam Hicks, both, I think, outstanding additions to this team. They added some minor league depth as well, especially in the outfield with Jack Sawinski. And I really do think they can compete in the American League. I don't think they're going to win the World Series, but I think there's a good shot that they win the American League outright. And that would be the 3rd time in their franchise history. This is the 3rd time the charm for them. We'll have to see. Who's your most surprising bottom of the pack team?
I could get some flack for this, but I think the Mets. I think coming into the season, I think everyone had higher expectations for them, obviously in a division where you have the Nationals who they just could come out of nowhere, but obviously you have players like James Wood who really have just been going off. But I feel like the Mets really seemed to kind of maybe get their groove in the beginning of this year. Obviously, you made some offseason additions and trades, some that, you know, Mets fans wouldn't really necessarily agree with. Obviously, Nimmo and Semien, originally that was something that a lot of people didn't expect. Didn't enjoy. But I feel like the Mets at least were, you know, in the conversation of maybe 3rd place or something like that. I feel like them being at the complete bottom does surprise me. Yeah.
I picked the Mets to win the division. I said there's no way with a roster that talented you can be this bad 2 years in a row.
And but the young talent too.
Yeah. If you go all the way back to the beginning of last season, I would guess the Mets are 1 or 2 of the worst teams in baseball. They just never got it right. And you're looking at a situation where you've got that Juan Soto contract. That's a long-term contract. Lindor's going to want out. Bichette's going to want out. We've already seen them start moving a few other pieces at the trade deadline. I think there's a chance the Mets completely tear the whole thing down this offseason and say, we'll try to build a new team around Soto because we're in that for the long haul. You're not getting out from a $750 million contract like that because nobody is taking it on. There's not a single team in baseball that would take that contract. But with that, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And I was going to say one thing to consider too is they have kind of a small window with Soto because he signed to that $765 million contract. He's got an opt-out after 2029. So I feel like if the Mets are going to do something, they have to do it quickly if they want to retain him and have him not opt out of that deal too. That's definitely, I feel like, a big factor for them.
My question is, nobody else is going to pay him that much because he's proven to be a clubhouse cancer. He's not a winning player outside of the 1 year with the Nationals when he was really young. And I don't think his ego had developed so much yet. He's not going to get any more money anywhere else. However, if he says, I've got enough money already, I want to go try to be on a winner, then the Mets are going to be SOL because their farm system, it doesn't impress me. I don't think a lot of their young pieces that people are talking about are going to pan out the way maybe Mets fans would have thought. And I don't think Soto, the way he is, can be a franchise superstar because he just doesn't get along with other solid players. We saw it with Judge. We saw it with Tatis and Machado. And then we've seen it with Lindor in New York. So we will have to see. But yeah, I'm shocked they're this bad. We're wrapping things up with everybody's favorite topic, who's hot. I'm going to go with a pitcher, something I don't normally do. But Dylan Cease has been so good over his last 6 starts. He's got a 3-1 record, obviously not getting a ton of run support, with a 0.84 ERA. That's across 43 innings with 53 strikeouts and 6 quality starts. And Dylan Cease is a guy who people think of as he's a darn good pitcher. How many people had him in the Cy Young race earlier in the year? I certainly didn't. And it's so disappointing that he is with an organization that's underperforming after getting one of those big deals that was supposed to make him, that missing piece that will put them over the top. And unfortunately, he could be that piece if the team was giving him some run support and winning games in starts that weren't his. But since you're a Yankees fan guesting on here and you're going to pick a Yankee, I'll hand it over to you for your who's hot.
Yeah, I feel like this is a common theme. I feel like I come on and then just pick a Yankee. I do have to go with George Lombard Jr. I mean, what I've seen from him in less than a week, just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you're talking about a kid that, like, literally, first of all, he just turned 21 2 months ago. 3 months ago, this kid couldn't even legally drink, and he comes out. His first game is it's just been amazing. I mean, in, let's see, 17 at-bats, he's batting .294, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs with a 1047 OPS. Not to mention, again, 3 months ago, this kid couldn't even drink alcohol legally. And now he's already got, I think, 3 defensive runs saved. He kind of just came out the gate swinging. I mean, I'm not making a Cooperstown, pitch for him yet. But I feel like what we're seeing from him early on is really showing signs of, he's not seeing a ton of pressure. I mean, he's playing through it well. I feel like these are really good traits to have at someone his age. And I feel like the ceiling that he has, I mean, if this first week is telling of anything that he's going to be throughout his career, I think he's going to be something special. And yeah, absolutely.
And you're replacing one of the statistically worst players in the position, Anthony Volpe, with a guy who's looking like great defensive shortstop, great hitter. And are we talking about a guy who could be the key piece when you look back at a Yankees World Series year or a Yankees World Series appearance? You say, when they brought up Lombard, that really flipped the switch. I think he's that kind of guy. I think he's that kind of talent. Just breathing life into an offense that has been struggling. Ben Rice has struggled without Judge, as has the offense as a whole. So you bring in a guy, spark it a little bit, get some of these other dudes see, and you see a 21-year-old kid showing out. Guys like Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm say, hey, I can do that too. I'm still the veteran here. And then you bring Judge back in toward the end, down the stretch, with a pretty darn good rotation and a solid bullpen. Not a great bullpen. They don't have a ton of strikeout stuff. But in terms of preventing runs, the Yankees have one of the best bullpens in baseball.
Meters, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a great team. And maybe, just maybe, the reason the Yankees didn't go all in at the deadline is because they knew they had something in this kid. Why do I need to give up a bunch of prospects if I can just call this kid up? And then we can save those prospects in the future as we start to age out of the Judge era, because he's not as young as people think he is. I actually think that's a pretty darn good move if you're that confident in a kid like Lombard, which a lot of teams, when they were calling the Yankees, said, we want George Lombard, we want Spencer Jones, and the Yankees said no. And Carlos LaGrange, they said absolutely not. Those guys are untouchable, and we're seeing why, for good reason. But with that, Zach, since it's a school night, let's wrap this thing up. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We always appreciate having you, seeing a little Yankees insight from our normal Rays insight. We will have Josh back with us next week. But thank you so much for filling in. Anything you want to close with?
No, yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's always so much fun. And yeah, good luck at school this year. And I'll see you guys next time.
Teacher of the Year incoming.